Video is going to be about checking accounts. We're going to talk briefly about what you use a checking account for, but most of this video is going to be spent showing you how to keep up with how much you have in your checking account. All right. So first of all, the purpose of a checking account is basically to have money coming and going at all times. It's the active part of your money management. It's the place that you typically spend day-to-day money in. It's the place that you're going to have your payroll coming into. It is the business account, you might say, or the operating account for your personal finances. It's where you're going to find the most transactions, and it's going to be the place where there's the most coming and going. Okay, so let's explore what all you can do with your checking account. If you have payroll coming in, then that's going to give you money to spend throughout the month. You can set up bills to come out of this. You can set up money that you're spending on food and clothing and things like that coming out of this account. But you want to be able to track and make sure you have enough there to meet all of the obligations that you have. So the only way you can do that is by having a checking account registry of some sort. Now, you would have these ledgers that would come with checks that were sent to you in the mail. What I'm going to show you today is just using an Excel spreadsheet here to be able to track your spending, who you're paying and who you're getting money from. Okay, so I'm going to start out here by typing in source. All right, I'm going to set a heading here that is going to be the source of where my money is coming from or going to. All right, now this next one is going to be money out. The next heading is going to be money in, and the next heading is going to be running balance. Okay, so let's start out and let's just say that I just got paid. And so I'm going to type in here that I had a payroll, and that is money. Is that money going out or is that money coming in? Well, that's going to be money coming in. So I'm going to put in here $750, let's say, that just came into me from my payroll. All right. So now that makes my running balance $750. That's going to be the first transaction in my account. I'm going to go ahead and make all of this bold so that I can be able to keep track of the headings and the things under it. All right, so let's say I have gotten paid and my utility bill needs to be paid. And let's say my utility bill is $200. Well, I would write in here JEA, that's Jackson Energy Authority here in the Jackson area. Is that money going out or coming in? Well, it's money going out. So I'm going to put it there. And what I want to do is subtract that amount. Let me go ahead and make all of these dollar signs to help out a little bit. All right, so now I can say $750 minus $200. That's going to leave me with $550. And you can certainly use something like a calculator if you need to. You're just going to take that running balance amount of $750, and if it's money out, you're going to subtract from it. That's where I got the $550. If it's money going in, you'll actually add to it. Okay, so let's say that for JEA, let's say that I go by the JEA facility and I just write them a check for $200. All right, what I need to do is as soon as I have written that check, I need to go ahead and take the money out on my ledger here, because where it's so easy to get lost on a checking account is paying for something but not remembering that it has come out of the account. What a lot of people will do is they will just look at their online banking or their mobile app and see what the balance is. And let's say the balance today is $300. Then they'll say, okay, then I can go ahead and spend $200 of that right away. but they may not know that there's a check that they wrote or a debit card transaction that has not hit their bank account yet. You do not need to use your balance on your online banking or mobile banking as the actual balance that's in the account. I want to say that again. This is really important. You don't want to use the balance that the bank says you have through online banking or mobile banking or even going in the bank as the actual balance for your account, because there may be other transactions that haven't hit the bank yet. Let's say, y'all know I like Chick-fil-A because I've talked about it already. Let's say that I go buy Chick-fil-A and I use my debit card and I take the whole family out and it ends up being $25. All right, that's money out, so I put it in the money out column here. And then I'm going to need to subtract $25 from $550. So I'm going to use my calculator here again, and I'm going to do 550 minus the $25. That gives me $525 now that I have as my actual balance. All right, now if I'm keeping up with this every day, then I know how much money I actually have. Chick-fil-A, if I use my debit card, they may not send that transaction to the bank immediately. They might, but sometimes they will wait and send those transactions later. Online merchants are particularly guilty of this. It may take them time before they actually send the money to the bank. And so that has to clear before it actually shows up. So that's one instance where, again, you want to make sure that you're keeping your own running balance rather than just depending on what the bank says. Most of the time, though, it's the checks that will get you into trouble, because some of these merchants like Chick-fil-A may go ahead and do what's called a pre-authorization, which goes ahead and kind of puts a hold on that $25 in your bank account. The debit card will go ahead and reserve that for Chick-fil-A, so to speak. But when you write a check, you may just forget it's out there and you may not have as much money in your bank account as you think you have. All right. So we've done a check to JEA. We've done a transaction with Chick-fil-A. Let's say that we now need to go move some of this money to our savings account because we've decided we want to put a little money back for the future. So I'm going to write in here transfer. And let's say that I want to try to put $50 a month into my savings account. Well, that's money that's going out, and that's going to reduce my money, again, that's in the account to $75. All right. Actually, I should add another column here that would be helpful, and that's the date. You'll want to know when these things were coming in. So let's say my payroll came in on February 1st, and let's say that I paid JEA on February 3rd, and I went through Chick-fil-A on February 5th, and I transferred this money on February 7th. You can see that you just put those dates in to kind of track. And you just make a running total. What some people will do is have a different tab down here in Excel for each month. You could just keep it going, but that's another way that you can just keep up with where the money's going. Now, maybe you don't have a computer, or maybe you don't have access to Excel, and that's okay. You can do the same principle on paper. When my wife and I got married 22 years ago, we tracked all of our expenses on a sheet of notebook paper. It's the same concept, though. You write down a column for a date, a column for who it is that you're doing business with. Remember, bank accounts make it easier for you to do business with people. Then you have a minus column, or a money out column, or an expense column, if you want to call it that. Or then you have a money in column, or a deposit column. Then you have your running balance on the far side. So if you have those columns, you can keep it really simple and just write those transactions down. Now, you may be in the line at Chick-fil-A and say, I can't write down on my notebook how much I spent at Chick-fil-A right there in the drive-thru line. Okay, understand that. So what you can do instead is keep up with your receipts, and at the end of every day, put this information in. That will normally work if you're not spending too much money in a given day. You can just wait till the end of the day, take all your receipts for that day, write them in your ledger, and then save those receipts somewhere if you ever need to refer back to them. Okay, so this is just a real basic look at what it looks like to balance your account One more thing I should add. I mentioned that let's say we wrote a check for $200 to JEA. All right. If we did that, then if we want to make sure that our balance matches what the bank has, then we need to do what's called a reconcile column. All right. So I'm going to add this really quick. Or actually, let's call it this. Let's call it a cleared column. And what cleared means is that it has shown up at the bank. It is there. So I'm just going to use an X to say my payroll came through the bank. But let's say that my JEA check has not come through the bank yet, then I'm going to leave that blank. My Chick-fil-A debit card has come through and my transfer has come through. So if I were looking at the bank and what my balance was at the bank right now, it would actually show, instead of $475, since that $200 check to JEA has not come out yet, the bank would say I had $675. Well, that's not accurate because I wrote that check and it is going to come out, it just hasn't come out yet. So if you have a cleared column as well, that can tell you if there are transactions that have not hit your bank account yet. Once it does hit your bank account, you can put an X by it and know that it's already cleared. But what you would have to do is take your bank balance and subtract any transactions that haven't come out yet so that that balance matches with your actual balance. But if you're keeping up with your receipts and if you're putting every transaction in, this should be the most accurate balance that you have, your own personal ledger. But it's good every month to just make sure that matches what the bank says that you have. Now, a lot of banks will offer services to help you, what you call balance your checkbook. That's doing this very thing. It's just taking your own personal ledger, making sure that your transactions that you've done are accounted for on your ledger and that you're able to balance it back and forth. Now, I will say, if you use debit card primarily, you will have less issues with checks being outstanding that you're waiting to clear the bank. Those debit card transactions will clear faster. Again, not always the same day because it depends on when your merchant actually processes it. But you will be able to see those transactions show up more quickly if you use a debit card. But again, I just want to say this because I think it's so important and such a misconception among folks. The bank account balance may not reflect all the transactions you have done. So you can't just rely on the bank. It's an important way to track your money, but the bank can't tell you that you've spent something if the merchant hasn't sent that information over to the bank yet. And so you've got to have another mechanism to show how much money you truly have, and that is by keeping a ledger. And that's what we've done on this particular video. So I hope that's helpful. You may have questions about that. Happy to answer those. Please feel free to include those, and we can address those in a future week. Thank you.